Hello everyone, warm welcome back to True to Form. Myself, Sam Turner, back with you for another episode of this popular, well it certainly is in my house anyway, YouTube show. And just to let you know, unfortunately we couldn't get a trainer interview for you this week. I couldn't rustle up the £7.87 to get Harry Derham back on again, but never mind, we'll work on that for next week if we can get that sponsor. On this week's edition though, just me I'm afraid, and I'll have a Turners preview for you. The Turners Hurdle, of course, second day of the Cheltenham Festival. An anti-post bet there from a horse I saw run over the weekend who impressed me. We'll have a review of the Cheltenham card, 7 races that I witnessed there firsthand with Lydia Hislop and Martin Dixon. Really enjoyable afternoon at Cheltenham. Got a breathless day, loads of stories and things going on there, some shenanigans. But we really enjoyed that together in the company of Lydia and Martin. I'll have tracker time, a couple of horses to put in your tracker going forward. Hopefully they'll pay their way. And we'll wind up with a preview of Sandown's card on Saturday, a brief mention of the DRF as well, because I couldn't see too many bets there, and also a selection for you up at Musselburgh. But without further ado, let's get on with our anti-post selection. So there's arguably little doubt that the new Lion deserves his place at the head of the market for the Turners. He's been very dominant in his performances that we've seen to date, not least in the Cheltenham Hurdle last time where he beat Vendigo and of course Bill Joyce, who in turn was beaten on Saturday at Cheltenham, having raced exuberantly again. Now the form of that race, you can drag it down a little bit. Admittedly the new Lion won pulling handstands. Regent Stroll didn't run his race. As I say, there was 127 horse ran into second past Bill Joyce. So there are a few question marks around it, not least the fact that the Cheltenham Hurdle traditionally and historically hasn't been a great stepping stone in recent times to the Turners. So with him in at 5-2 taking a big chunk out of the market, where else do we play? And there was a performance on Saturday at Fairyhouse by a horse called Cowabunga. Poorly named horse, but a really brilliant performance, which suggested that I think he's worth taking a chance with at around 14-1 in the village for this race. Now, the only slight concern is that, of course, he races in the JP McManus colours, and JP went to a lot of money to buy the new Lion, well-documented purchase not long ago. But with Cowabunga, I think this has to be the race for him. He looks, for all the world, like a 2.5 miler in waiting. He managed to win over 2 miles, and he ran really well over Christmas at Leopardstown behind Kopek de Board. And that was over the minimum trip as well, where I think the track was probably a bit on the quick side for him as well. Now his sire, Tunis, was a graded winner in France over 2.5 miles and ran really well in a number of grade 1s as well. Now, as I say, 14-1 available. His speed figure was a figure of 72. Now I use these speed figures, they're produced by a colleague of mine, Andy Bate. They're very, very reliable. And he recorded 72. Now the new Lion has only got something in the mid-60s so far. So I think we've got a little bit of an advantage there on the speed figures. I like the way that he accrued 19 lengths gained in jumping, and his race IQ jump index was 8.1, which was an improvement on the 7.2 that he managed at Leopardstown. So this is a horse that's really getting to grips with what's required. He's got a bit of experience from the bumper field in France. He's also obviously jumped French hurdles. He built on that Leopardstown win, and then he came to Fairyhouse and he put together a really smart performance. I think 14-1 for him is a very tasty price indeed, and I'm certainly going to have a little bit of that. Well, Cheltenham Trials Day rarely fails to deliver. I think that was again the case on Saturday. 7 races, plenty of intrigue, plenty of information gathered around those races, and not least a little bit of controversy with the running and riding of Iroko and also Delta Work in their respective races as well. Well covered by Lydia Hislop on Racing TV on Saturday afternoon, who I was fortunate enough to be with alongside Martin Dixon. We enjoyed a 7-race card that was very, very informative, not least the opening race, the Timeform Novices Handicap Chase, won in good style by Jagwar, who was left behind that mark in the low 130s, I think, with this performance. He tracked his stablemate, Billy the Real Big Red, and just picked him off after the last for a very decisive performance. I thought it was an excellent jumping display as well. 8.7 on the race IQ data. That suggests that shuddering mistake he made at Uttoxeter was but a distant memory. He left that behind and put together a really polished performance here. I think he's going to take the world of beating in that Novices Handicap Chase at the festival. And further down the list, Ryan's Rocket, the horse that was really moving sweetly throughout that race until a shuddering error sort of halted his progress. He managed to get the momentum back, but he paid for that on the home turn and just faded out of it. I think he's a better horse than that. I think returned to 2 miles, maybe not for the Grand Annual. I think they might struggle to get him qualified for that by February the 23rd. But something like Aintree and that competitive 2-mile handicap chase at Aintree, that could suit him ideally. The second race was running a romp by East India Doc, who again achieved a tremendous speed figure by beating Stencil by 10 lengths or more. That was a really good effort, both from the winner and the runner-up. The second horse looks a chaser in the making next year, but I was very taken with the way he travelled and jumped. He got 8.7 on the Race IQ data, so he obviously took to British hurdles really well. But this was all about East India Doc, who justified some strong support to certainly enhance his claims on the Triumph Hurdle, and I would have him nearly favourite. I think he's achieved more in his 3 starts than Lulamba has in his 1, and albeit the Ascot winner is entitled to improve and step forward, and he probably will do at Kempton in a couple of weeks' time, but I really was taken with East India Doc again. From watching this programme, you'll know I'm a huge fan of his. He achieved some great data on the Race IQ stats on his second start, and he again did it here, 8.5 on the jumping index. He's so slick, he's got so much pace. I just love the way he charges up that hill at Cheltenham. So I would have him shorter than the 7-2 that's currently on offer. Well, Moon d'Orange landed a winning tip for us last week. I still quite don't know how. I was incredulous watching him run the first sort of mile and a half, where he was detached by 6 lengths. But then he latched onto his rivals coming down the hill, and by 2 out, he jumped in, and it looked as though he was all over the winner. He dived at the last, still got over the line in front thanks to Sean Bowen's absolute miraculous ride. And I think it's almost the ride of the season so far. I think anything that beats that will have to be something special. I sort of said on air that it was McCoy-esque. Well, Andrew King from the Racing Post messaged me and said it was more Timmy Murphy, and I think he's probably right. I think it was a mercurial Timmy Murphy ride, that on Moon d'Orange, but the headlines were all sort of centred around Iroko and the ride that he got, and Lydia covered that in full glory on Saturday afternoon's broadcast, speaking to the head of the stewards and noting the explanation of John Joe O'Neill Jr., who felt that the horse just wanted a confidence booster after his performance at Ascot. Whether you buy that or not is open to question. It's very much 2 sides of the same coin, but whatever we know that he's a horse that's definitely going places, and he's ahead of his mark. And I suppose it's a fault of the system that we have to wait for the weights at Aintree and the Grand National, and these horses have to run in the interim to prepare for it. Right, the Cotswold chase saw Presse back up a good performance in the King George with a victory here, and I think Charlie Deutsch certainly left a little bit of petrol in the tank there. He managed to beat Stage Star very snugly. Stage Star, brilliant performance jumping wise, 8.9 on the Race IQ data, much more him. I think he enjoyed going the stride slower, he enjoyed the 3 miles, he sorted it out well. He still shifted left on the running, which he's prone to, but I think something like the Betfair Bowl at Aintree is certainly going to play to his strengths, and he just seemed to enjoy the slower tempo of that race and the smaller field, which is obviously a huge help. Constitution Hill, obviously, well, he overcame that error at the last, and there's a few of us had our hearts in our mouths, certainly those of us who've got a vested interest in Brentford Hope, and saw £70,000 in prize money flash before our eyes. But look, we were really pleased with Brentford Hope, and he goes to the Kingwell Hurdle. Great to see Constitution Hill as well. I'm sure he put a few thousand on the gate on Saturday. Yes, he might have won at 10 or 12 on, but I think, noting the reception that he received from the Cheltenham Massive and the patrons suggested that it was a great move by Nicky Henderson to run him. Gowel Road finally gained some compensation for some terrific performances this season with a victory in the Cleve Hurdle. It was a race that cut up not to a great deal. Strong Flow didn't run his race. Crambo made a shuddering error at the top of the hill, and he only had Montmoral and Botox Hard to beat. Now, Montmoral, a horse that probably needs a bigger field and a stronger pace. Botox Hard has been bang out of form, so the form of that race is open to question, but you can't knock Gowel Road. He jumped much better as well on Saturday, 7.3 on the Race IQ data, vastly improved on what he's managed to do before now, and just when he needed his best jump, he got it at the last. He was spring-heeled, clear, and Sam Twiston-Davies could register a double with a good performance. And the card drew to a close with 6 Mile Bridge, and with Potter's Charm odds on and 3 short price horses already gone in, there was a fair bit of anticipation. Could Potter's Charm enhance his well-being and also his position in the Turners antepost market. Well, he couldn't, unfortunately. He was put to bed in no matter in great style, really, by 6 Mile Bridge, who made all, jumped well, and left behind the bare form of that Huntingdon and Leicester performance. This was a really sparkling effort from 6 Mile Bridge. He jumped beautifully as well. I think that's where he won the race. And Potter's Charm, I managed to catch up with William Twiston-Davies after the race, and he was kicking himself really for running Potter's Charm. He felt that it had never been the plan, this race, and then they saw that it was cutting up and it didn't look as strong as it perhaps could have been. They saw an opportunity to win a Grade 2 at Cheltenham and they took it. But I don't know how much he'd done between Saturday's race and the Formby, and I think you might see a different horse in 6 weeks' time. So if you're still clutching an anti-post slip for the Turners, I wouldn't give up on that just yet. You may well see a different Potter's Charm come the second day of the festival. So that's my appraisal of what I saw on Saturday. Hope you enjoyed that and hope you picked some of the bones out of it. In the immortal words of MC Hammer, it's tracker time, and the 2 selections for this week, well, we'll start off with a winner from Uttoxeter on Saturday. It's Rubber Ball, a horse that hails from a race that I'm very, very sweet on at the moment, and that's the Huntingdon Maiden Hurdle, won by Vanderpoel, Ben Pauling's Vanderpoel, who we haven't seen since, and surprisingly enough wasn't entered in any of the novice hurdles at Cheltenham. The data from that race was extremely good, and those of you with long memories will realise that I tipped Educator as a tracker horse out of it going forward. Well, I'm going to add Rubber Ball as well to the tracker from it because I was so impressed with him at Uttoxeter on Saturday. He landed some right good bets, scoring at 1 to 2, never really giving a moment's concern to his backers, beating his rivals by 11 lengths and 14 lengths as they finished stretched out across Staffordshire. A bit like some of the punters probably after a good day on the drink up there. The second selection for the tracker was the Nace bumper winner on Sunday, which is called Champagne Jury. Now, this was from the same sort of schoolmaster and educational stable of Rasheen Hickey, who produced Champagne Fever. So obviously a good graduate of that yard, and wore the tongue tie for the first time for Gavin Cromwell, which I think was probably a salient point. Now, this lad was second to Vanderpoel in his Bolter point-to-point in November. The third has already won by 6 lengths as well, by the way, so it looks a point definitely worth taking seriously. And I really like the way that Champagne Jury went through this race. Now, I think he's going to get targeted at a maiden hurdle, but I think he's got enough ability probably to go and run in one of the nice bumpers probably this spring. I love the way that he travelled through the race, admittedly on very deep conditions, but I think he looks a horse of immense potential. Definitely one that I want to keep on side anyway for the all-conquering Gavin Cromwell team. That's Champagne Jury. He'll go alongside Rubber Ball as my 2 tracker horses for this week. So pen and paper at the ready then, and we'll get on with the weekend's tips. And firstly, let's congratulate Sandown for putting 3 chase races on their card to ensure that we get a full meeting at Sandown on Saturday and ITV gets their coverage. I think that's an initiative to be applauded. Well done, Andrew Cooper and the team there and the BHA. We'll give them plaudits for once. And we'll start off at Sandown with a Virgin Bet Cilials chase in which Imperio Pass is the likely favourite. I think he's worth taking on here with Django Bay, who really impressed me with that performance at Cheltenham pre-Christmas. I thought it was a sparkling debut over fences, really, and the data suggests that that was the right opinion to have. Now, there's been 1 or 2, obviously, horses that have come out of that race that perhaps haven't lived up to the billing, the Caldwell Potters of this world, probably even Deafening Silence. But Springwell Bay was well beaten that day, and he's come and lagged up since by 6.5 lengths to give the form a little bit of solidity. And Django Bay's jump index that day on the Race IQ data was 8.8, which suggests that our eyes weren't deceiving us. He did jump brilliantly. He clocked a very, very good speed figure, and he was around 18 lengths quicker than any other chase horse that day on that card for the final circuit. So it was a really exhilarating debut, and I think he'll take a bit of beating at 5 to 2. Second selection, well, if the hurdles go ahead, I like Henri II in the 3 mile handicap hurdle. He's 2 from 3 at Sandown, loves heavy ground, and won by about a dozen wickets last time. Now, he's up £8 for that, but I don't think that will stop him because the ability to operate around Sandown on deep ground is a vital attribute, and hopefully that will stand him in good stead. Third selection runs in the handicap chase. I think that's at 3:42. It's certainly scheduled for 3:42. These timings may change, and that's Edinda who's available at 16, 20, 25 to 1 at the moment for David Pipe. This horse looked like he was coming back a little bit at Chepstow last time. He wasn't beaten that far in a truly run race won by Larry's Bar. We couldn't see a lot of it because of the mist, but his best ever run over fences came at this racecourse back in March 2023 when he was second to Zungli over 2.5. He handles soft ground really well. He's down to a very attractive mark, and he just looks too big a price in a race where there isn't a great deal of strength in depth. Right, up to Musselburgh then for the 142, and a horse that we put in our tracker. That's Nardaran, who was let down a little bit by his jumping late on at Kempton, but up to that point had travelled quite nicely and got into the teeth of the race on his debut. I think he'll be a lot sharper for that, and hopefully he'll go well in the opener at Musselburgh on Saturday. Quickly on to Sunday then, 2 selections for you at the DRF at Leopardstown on Sunday. I didn't see a lot on the card on Saturday, but Sunday, a couple of handicaps to have a look at. Queen's Gamble runs in the opening Mares Handicap Hurdle for Harry Derham. This has been the plan for some time, and around 5-6 to 1, I think she makes plenty of appeal. Second in the Jerry Fielden, a race that's worked out exceptionally well, and hopefully she'll go well for Harry, who's looking to follow up Washington's win over in Ireland already this season. The second selection runs in the Handicap Chase at 2:45, and it's Pinkerton, the Galway Chase, or the Galway Plate winner, who runs here after finishing third to Percival Gowel over Christmas. That was a really strong speed figure for the race, and the data was exceptional. I think he'll go very well, providing there's a bit of cut in the ground. Thanks very much for all your comments on Facebook and also on YouTube. Really appreciate those. And good luck to Thomas Gallagher, I think, who messaged in, and he's got a couple of very tasty anti-post bets. So big shout out to you, Thomas, and good luck with those going forward. Thanks very much for your time this week. I look forward to speaking to you next week with our debrief of the DRF.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.